Hey, everybody, I'm John Granado, and that's Lance Zerline. You can hear us mornings on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. Hit subscribe if you haven't yet so you get all of our content here at SportsMap HOU. Lance, we've been talking about Click not having a contract. Now we're hearing names of rumored candidates like David Stearns. Is winning the World Series the only way Click keeps his job?
I think it's been decided. I mean, why would really okay, if we win, you stay. If we lose, you don't. What is this? Anton Chigurh? You see this?
Yeah.
No Country for Old Men.
Flip a coin.
Remember when he flipped the coin? Call it, Click. Mm-hmm. Well, what am I calling here? I'd like to know what I'm calling. Call it, friendo. What is he? Is Jim Crane going in there and calling James Click friendo and tell him to call it with the coin?
No.
Like, you better hope they win, because if you win, you've done a good job. If you lose, you did a bad job. It's been decided.
Well, how about, is there any chance? You know, there has been one general manager that did not come back the year after they won the World Series. That was in 1947. Larry McPhail walked into the celebration that the Yankees were having in the locker room, punched a sports writer, and told everybody he was quitting.
That is the most baller quit.
Yeah.
Because he was probably going into insurance or farming to make more money.
Well, I don't know. He was an alcoholic, raging alcoholic. He was wasted at the time.
They were probably connected.
Right. And Click is not a raging alcoholic. No. So I figure he's not going to do that. But is there a chance that they don't bring him back even if he wins the World Series?
Oh, yeah, obviously.
You think it's already been decided?
You got to a World Series. James Click has gone to back-to-back World Series and helped build out the bullpen that has become one of the strengths of the teams, and he doesn't have an extension. You tell me, back-to-back World Series, and this guy doesn't have an extension, that should tell you something. Yeah. It goes beyond whatever's going on the field. I think Jim Crane just fundamentally doesn't believe that he is the best possible candidate for the job. That's my guess.
Yeah, well, I want to tell you something. It's about Dr. Manavis. Here she is talking about your prostate. If you're older and you think that you have a prostate issue, then it's time to come and see Dr. Michelle Manavis, isn't it?
Going in is the first step, just speaking to one of us. Most of the time we hear incomplete emptying, urinary frequency, erectile dysfunction. Speaking to me about how this has been affecting your life is really the first step to finding the care that you actually need.
If you think you have an enlarged prostate, one place to go, 975prostate.com. Lance, compare the expectations of the Astros and the Yankees now. This used to be the exact opposite. The Astros could fire their GM after making the World Series in back-to-back years. The Yankees got swept by the Astros, and both Boone and Cashman are back. That's not Yankees. That's just the Astros have become the Yankees.
Well, George Steinbrenner was the guy that would, famously fired and brought Billy Martin back multiple times. I think what the Yankees are doing is the Yankees basically say, we think these are the right guys. You don't have to, just because you're unhappy something happens in a single year, I think it's a mistake for fans and media and organizations to think, well, we know this person's good, but a change has to be made. No, the Pittsburgh Steelers stuck with Chuck Noll forever. They stuck with Bill Cowher. When I remember you and I doing radio thinking Bill Cowher might be gone from the Steelers. He had a couple losing seasons back-to-back, and in this day and age, he would have 100% been fired. They stuck with it. He won Super Bowls. Mike Tomlin, they stay the course. Philadelphia didn't freak out with Andy Reid. They stayed the course with him. Eventually, he got fired, but, it's not always better. Marty Schottenheimer was a very good coach for the Chargers. What happened once they fired Marty Schottenheimer? Sometimes, if you think you've got the right guys, you just got to roll to the next season.
But it's the exact opposite of what George used to do. I mean,
and maybe it's the right thing to do.
Well, but George used to win. They don't win anymore.
Yeah, but that has less to do with just firing people and more to do. You think they're firing away?
No, but that was an expectation of a Yankee.
But that's
that you had to win or you were out.
But that's different than building. How do you build a team?
Well, he hasn't built it since 2009.
Well, and that's on Cashman.
Yeah,
now Cashman's had a long run.
Right. But Steinbrenners have a history, and they are just the exact opposite of what they used to be. And there's a reason that they got swept, is because the expectations aren't there. The Astros have expectations now. All right, you don't win in Houston now. You're not going to be around.
But do you
and
really,
even I think it's the Click maybe isn't aggressive enough.
Yeah,
And that might be it.
This is not a case of Jim Crane is George Steinbrenner. I mean, I don't think that's a fair representation. I think basically he wants the best that he can get. And if he doesn't have the best that he can get, I think he moves along. And I think
that's what George did.
Inside these last 3 years, I think with James, but George was also a fiery, emotional.
No, well,
person.
that's different. But
That's
it's still the same philosophy. You don't win, you're out.
John, Click is giving him 3 years. This isn't a one and done or a freak out. James Click has had 3 years. Jim Crane is basically looking at this, and obviously he looked at it, and inside the contract, he says, okay, this is my evaluation of the guy after 3 years, and I either think I can do better or I don't. He obviously thinks he can do better, or we'd have an extension done by now, and he hasn't done an extension. Maybe he'll surprise us.
Maybe.
But I think there's a big difference between being an emotional owner or an emotional GM or somebody who fires because they're pissed off at them or they're just disappointed. If you have the right guy, stick with them. I don't know if James Click is the right guy or wrong guy. I don't think he's done a bad job.
No.
In some of the trades, be aggressive. Get Josh Bell. How's Josh Bell done? Get Wilson Contreras. How did Contreras do? You kept more of your prospects. You got Mancini, who's kind of a nothing. Vasquez is fine. I like Kevin Vasquez. But you kept more of your prospects.
No.
And he did a nice
He's done
job
a great
of building
job.
bullpen.
Listen, the bullpen is great. He's done a great job. He hasn't had to do much with the team, and they're in the World Series, and the favorite in the World Series. James Click can't throw the ball, or he can't pitch for JV. Okay, JV's got to come through. That's not James Click's fault. He put a better team on the field. There's no question about that. But there's something about James Click that is not Jeff Luhnow, that is not what Jim Crane wants, apparently. So if that's the case, if he doesn't feel like he's aggressive enough, then or making the right moves, maybe in the Latin America, the signings, or whatever the case may be, Jim Crane is more like George Steinbrenner, much more like George Steinbrenner than Hal Steinbrenner.
No, well, maybe, but here's why I'll say no. George is firing everybody. This is not a firing. I know this is a crazy concept because you never see it anymore, but sometimes when a contract runs out, employers allow employees to walk. They don't want to retain their services.
Yeah, but it's more or less a firing.
He's not firing Click. No, he's basically saying we think we can do better.
Yeah,
and we're going to move on. It's just we're not used to seeing people come to the end of their contract anymore.
No,
in any sport, really.
No. Well, but hey, listen, in the Astros front office, it happens all the time with Jim Crane. It happens.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If he thinks you're not the guy after your contract's over, and Click has obviously done a nice job, it looks like he's going to move on. The question becomes, how heavy did the drums start beating for Jeff Luhnow? I don't think it would happen, but I think people are going to start to pine for Jeff Luhnow. The fans
It ain't happening. That is not going to happen. Everybody can pine all they want. Jeff Luhnow ain't walking through that door, people. He just ain't.